So as we move through the restructuring programme for the Tata Steel UK business, especially here in Port Talbot, and the transformation to electric arc furnace technology, one of the most frequent visitors to our site is our CEO and Managing Director Tata Steel, TV Narendran. Mr Narendran, great to see you on site again. You're a regular visitor here. Tell us what you're here for this week.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. It's always good to come back here because there's so much happening here. So it's a difficult time and an exciting time. So I enjoy coming here and spending time with the teams to see what's happening, because particularly the decommissioning work which is going on is incredible. It's not easy. Last time when I was here and even this time I've got into the detail of the planning, the preparation, the work done. We are standing here on top of the coke ovens. I was also earlier today at blast furnace to see the work that's going on with the team on energy side as well. Because there are so many interdependencies, it's a complex process industry. Shutting down anything has to be done extremely carefully. And I think the team is doing a wonderful job. And I wish the teams all the very best for the work that we're doing today. It's of course a difficult time. It's an emotional time. I know that when we shut down the coke ovens, it brought back a lot of memories to a lot of people. And I'm sure it'll be similar with the blast furnace when we take down BF5 in the end of June. So it's always difficult time, but I do believe that, as much as we are celebrating a past, we are also creating a great future.
Now last week, Mr Narendran, of course we had the annual results in India and it showed another huge loss for the UK business. How are the investors reacting to that performance, but the view forward as well?
Yeah. So I think one thing which sometimes people don't appreciate is 67% of Tata Steel is owned by institutional investors, retail investors. The Tata Group owns 33%. So as much as the Tata Group has been very patient with the journey that we have in UK, because the Tata Group always thinks a bit more long term, but we have other investors who are also asking us tough questions, saying that it's a significant drain on Tata Steel's resources, because last year we made more than 350 to 400 million EBITDA loss and 600 million of negative cash. And this year also the first 6 months looks to be in 300-350 million negative EBITDA range. So it's a lot of money which is being spent on running the business, which is structurally not in a great shape.
Yeah.
So I think the investors have been waiting for us to move forward, and they are in some sense patient, because they see that we are expected to move forward fast. But if we didn't have a plan, I think we would be under tremendous pressure to take a call, because these kind of losses are just not affordable. And on top of that, you have assets which are in bad shape, which are reaching the end of life.
Yeah.
So I think the sooner we can move on to the new process route, build a new electric arc furnace, run a very competitive steel business, the more comforted the investors will feel. And I think it's better for all of us to secure that kind of a future for Port Talbot.
Yeah, and of course last time you spoke to us on camera was back in March, and you were talking confidently then about the progress of the plan. Now some people might think it hasn't moved very far since then. What would you say to that?
So I think there are different parts of the plan. Some of it is moving as we had planned, in some sense, maybe with a bit of delay. The coke ovens closure and the BF5 closure, maybe it's 3 months, 2 to 3 months later than what we had originally thought, but still it's okay. When I look at the discussions with the unions, they are always the more complex ones.
Yeah.
We fully understand where the unions are coming from, but I think Tata Steel, despite all the financial challenges of running the UK operation, has made a fairly generous offer, and I think we want to maximize voluntary redundancy, and we think this offer is quite generous, and we hope that we can move forward with the unions so that we can move forward to the next phase.
Yeah, and of course I guess since last time you were here we've had the agreement of the National Grid connection, and there's been a few CapEx workshops which show how much work is going on in the background. How impressed are you with that?
Absolutely. I think National Grid was on the critical path. Now that we have a commitment from them, and we know when they will be ready, it's good for us, because then the pressure is on us to get the electric arc furnace up and ready by the time they are ready with the grid enhancement. So I think that's why we need to move fast. And I think the CapEx workshops, the planning, the preparation is going on well. We're doing the engineering work. We want to place the orders as soon as possible and start the work as soon as possible.
Yeah, and through the transition period, one of the concerns of people who work here and of our customers will be about the supply of substrate material once the iron and steel working ceases. So could you update us on that, and also the preparations we're making in the downstream businesses to continue to serve our customers?
Yeah. So I think that's a very critical part of what we're doing, right? We want to ensure that our downstream businesses continue to run even as we restructure the upstream. Secondly, we want to give the customers the comfort that we're going to be supplying steel to them so that they are not left high and dry for the next 3 years looking for alternate sources, because then there's no guarantee they'll come back when we are ready. So it's in our interest to make sure they stick with us. And that's why we just need to give them that comfort. And I think that's where, when I hear about industrial action, etc., we should really ask ourselves, who are we hurting? We are actually hurting our customers and encouraging them to look for alternate options. So I think that's the challenge, irrespective of the differences we may have. I think we really need to see as in addressing these differences, are we really hurting ourselves collectively rather than one side or the other. I think a lot of work has been done on the substrates. Initially, people thought it won't be possible. I think I'm happy to say that we pretty much tied up all the substrate we need. Roughly 2 million tons will come from India and Netherlands, and the balance million tons will come from other major steel producers who we've reached out to and who are willing to help us see through these next 3 years. So that's been very comforting. And so I think on the substrate side, we are tied up. We just need to make sure that we can move forward.
Yeah, and of course everyone talks about the electric arc furnace and all that implies, but in the downstream businesses there's a lot of money being spent, isn't there? In places like Shotton and Corby and Hartlepool, how important is that money to be spent now?
Absolutely. I think we've continuously invested in the downstream businesses, made them stronger, and they are the front-facing businesses serving the customers. And some of these investments, I think we are well placed to leverage it. So that's why we don't want to have any interruptions in the flow of material to the downstream businesses, because that's what will make sure that the business continues to be financially sustainable even as we do the transition.
Yeah, and it won't have escaped your attention, Mr Narendran. We in the UK are in the middle of a general election campaigning. The thoughts are that there's likely to be a new government coming in a few weeks' time. What difference might that make to our plans in the short term and longer term?
There are 3 elements of the plan. One element of the plan is what we need to do at the heavy end. I think that is in some sense given simply because of the quality of the assets and the financial bleed. So it is just not sustainable. We've said that for more than a year. In fact, if you recall it, we had said it at that time that if we don't have an agreement with the government, we will have to anyway close the heavy end, right? So I think that we have reached that stage, right? The second part is, what are we building? And I think that's where we have a grant funding agreement, and the grant funding agreement is only addressing what we are building, right? It doesn't address funding the losses, because that can never be supported by governments, because you will run into issues with the regulators, right? So for me, any support from the government can only address future investments, and we have always said that if there's more support, we can look at more investments. I don't think we've ever said we can't invest any more. But if we need to move on, we need to move on with what we have agreed so far, which is to build an electric arc furnace, and then make sure that the rest of it gets added on as and when required. The third stream is a conversation with the unions, which I alluded to, and I hope we can come to a resolution soon, because all 3 are maybe in some sense linked to each other, but at the same time is also independent of each other.
Listen, thanks very much for your time today. I know you're a very busy man, and I'm very grateful for you making time for us. So there you have it, from the horse's mouth. Mr Narendran talks about all the challenges that we've got at the moment, the professionalism of the people who are going through the decommissioning plans, the confidence he has in moving forward, and the political challenges of the different phases of the restructuring and transformation project. Listen, thanks very much again for coming. It's a pleasure to see you. We welcome you back soon.
Thank you.